this area here, based on these two big trees, this sort of alleyway at the foot of the slope behind our house, I call it the Mango Grove or Mangolandia because there are a lot of mangoes planted here. Most of them are rootstock still that haven't been grafted to anything yet, but there's other stuff too, so let's go down and take a look. So here's a rootstock. I think there's 5. There's one, and it's doing really well. And here's this one. This one has stayed smaller, but it looks good, looks healthy. And then there's this one, which looks really vigorous and nice. Got a nice flush on it right now. And then there's this one, which even more so looks vigorous and healthy and is just waiting to be grafted to something wonderful. Now right behind it, that thing there is a mango, and it's not anything we planted, it was here. And I think it's been there forever. And it never grows, and it always looks horrible. And so when we first moved here, I sort of tried to investigate, and it was pretty easy to find out what the problem was just by digging around the base of the tree. It's completely encircled by an ant's nest, and then you follow it up and you realize that the entire trunk is just inhabited by ants. So basically this tree is an ant farm. And so the poor thing, we haven't taken it out because I'm like, well, if the ants are here, then they're not anyplace else. So it's kind of like live and let live. And so if they're there, then maybe they won't bother this one, which is, we planted really close to it. The idea that this one is just gonna overtake that poor suffering ant farm one. And at some point maybe, yeah, we'll take it down if it's getting in the way. But for now I thought, well, if we take it down, where are all those ants gonna go? It might go someplace where I really don't want them. So here's our last rootstock, and this is the one that looks terrible. I don't know why it looks terrible. It doesn't have ants like that other plant, like that other tree. That's not the problem. I really don't know why it looks weak and has never looked better than this. So if it doesn't shape up, at some point we'll replace it with another one, because frankly mango rootstocks abound around here. This is a citrus that I'm sure at one time had a graft, but it lost it, I think, in a fire. There have been a few fires in the past decades that have passed through this land. And it gives, basically gives oranges with no sugar, is what it gives. Danielle loves it because I was saying, oh, we're going to graft it. Actually, I was saying we're going to let it die because I planted this Catalina avocado right next to it. And the Catalina avocado is a big, vigorous tree. It needs a lot of space. And we have a lot of other citrus, so I said, this one, we're just going to we're going to cut it down, basically. Well, anyway, Daniel started using that fruit instead of limes because we don't have lime production yet. And he loves it. He says he likes it better than lime. So now we have to let this tree go, and I'm not allowed to graft it either because he wants that fruit. So, okay. Anyway, so here we are. By the way, this is a Catalina avocado. It's the Cuban's avocado of choice. Creamy, green, sort of oval shape, West Indian type, I think, pure. And its claim to fame, besides it being creamy, is that it's a little sweet. It's like mildly sweet. It's a nice avocado. And so I'm hoping that we might get production on it, I don't know, maybe next year. That would be nice. Moving up, no, let's move over, because we're sort of staying in this alleyway. The alleyway, which is the Mango Grove. Well, you can see it doesn't only have mangoes. So over here, we have a morera. What is that in English? It is mulberry. This is I'm talking about this tree, this mulberry. This mulberry we planted more or less for the chickens because it gives tiny, 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 tiny fruit. Delicious, delicious, tiny, tiny fruit, but they're so little. And we have other mulberries that give bigger fruit, so that's for us. But this one, the chickens eat the fruit and the leaves. And leaves are actually high in protein. They're really good forage. So I planted it down here because right over there is where the chicken system is going to be, the chicken compost system. As you can see, we have the posts up for the fence, and now we just have to put the fence up. And that is surrounded by these monster trees. Monsters. Go up and up and up and up and up forever. And that gives really nice shade and also protection from predators from the air to this chicken system area. Over here, I planted a tamarind. This tamarind, right after I planted it, got wiped out, all of its leaves, by cutter ants, as so often happens here. And so the poor thing is only now just starting to leaf out again. But it is, and it's going to be fine. And as you can see, I put its tanglefoot thing there to protect it from future attacks. Cutter ants are just going to have to look for other things to eat other than my plants. That's all I can say about that. So, then moving back over here, you can see we cleaned this whole area to make access to the chicken system from this side easier. This was what you see here, this wildness, this whole area where I'm walking was just like that. All of this stuff was just like that. And that wildness there, it was like that. So we planted some squash down here to take advantage of the open space. They look okay. We'll see. We've been really struggling with squash. Fungal diseases. First we had powdery mildew, and then after that another one came along. The powdery mildew seems to have gone away, and another one came along that's just as bad. I don't know what it is. Here's a scion on an avocado seedling that I grafted a while ago, and I'm confident that this is going to take, but so I don't know if I can get this to focus here, but it's just taking forever to leaf out. But it's had time here to, well, it's just not going to focus, is it? Anyway, you get the idea. It's bright green and it's plump, and I think it's going to make it. It's just going to take a while. But anyway, this is has no name. It's a no-name seedling variety that comes from a neighbor. Everybody who's had it says it's got excellent fruit that's really creamy and delicious, and it's a big fruit with a small seed, so that's all good. This tree was a huge seedling volunteer, you know, from a tree that was, from a seed that was thrown down, you know. And we've got zillions of them here. Mango and avocado from seeds that got thrown out and sprout. So this was a giant tree we cut way back to now graft on it. So that's our first graft on that tree. It will probably end up being a cocktail tree in the end. So there you go. Here's a different perspective on this alleyway that is the mango grove.